give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. Jesus is teaching an interesting lesson here, and he's using water and this word that he's trying to deliver to this woman as far as bringing the message clear to him. A lot of us do that today. We try to use examples to make things plainer to people. And of course, that's what Jesus is doing here. The woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered and said to her, "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water, springing up into everlasting life." And the woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water." Now I think she's beginning to understand what Jesus is talking about, because he certainly didn't have a pouch of water on his hip. She is understanding that he's trying to deliver a message to him. As you continue to read down there, you'll see where Jesus' disciples came back, and he asked this woman, "Where is your husband?" And she says, "I have no husband." And of course, Jesus tells her, "You're correct. You had 5 husbands, and the man that you're with now is not your husband." You see, I believe this woman was looking for something by having these different marital relationships. And Jesus is finally giving her something, I think, that she can rely on and have confidence in. But she was amazed that Jesus knew everything about her. And as you continue to read there, you'll see that she went back to the city and told him, "Here's a man that told me everything about me." And of course, she encouraged Jesus to stay there a couple of more days. But here's a little insert that we can put here. Look at the difference that this one woman made to this city. Jesus told her his message. She went back to the city, and we don't know how many people she converted, or Jesus converted while he was there the 2 days. The scriptures don't tell us. But certainly, she had an important impact on that city as Jesus had on her. Now, let's go to John the 7th chapter now. We're going to pick back up with Nicodemus. Now, keep in mind, Nicodemus didn't want his friends to know that he was coming to Jesus for information. So now we'll see him in a situation where he's going to openly, not by night, defend Jesus in front of the fellow Jews that were there. You should have the scripture there, 7:45. Then the officers came to the chief priests and Pharisees, who said to them, why have you not bought him?" The officers answered, "No man ever spoke like this man." Then the Pharisees answered them, Are you also deceived? Have any of the rulers or Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd that does not know the law is accursed. Nicodemus, he who came by Jesus at night, being one of them, said to them, "Does our law judge a man before it hears him and knows what he's doing?" They answered and said to him, "Are you also from Galilee? Search and look, for no prophet has ever risen out of Galilee." Here we see Nicodemus, the third chapter of John, coming to Jesus at night. Now we see him coming to light, defending him against his fellow Pharisees. So we see this conversion that's in the process with Nicodemus. If you turn to the 19th chapter of John, not only is he openly a believer with Jesus now, you'll see in the 7th chapter, in the 19th chapter, that he openly claimed Jesus' body. He was at the cross claiming his body. So we see how he's gone from being a non-believer to a believer as far as claiming Jesus' body. Many of us, I believe, feel like the woman at the well. She made a transition from what she was to understanding what this living water that Jesus was talking about was. Nicodemus began to understand it. These individuals made a transition from where they were to where Jesus had asked them to be. Jesus tells us over in Matthew 11, if you turn over there, it says, my yoke is easy. It's a familiar one. I'll let you get there. My burden is light. 11 verse 28. It says, come to me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke up on you. I don't know if many of you know what a yoke is. I was talking to Dan's two daughters. I know they don't know, okay? Because I had a conversation with them about some 60s conversation. But what you had is a yoke. You had a yoke. It's like a stick between two oxen. And you would tie them together, and they would pull the load. And what Jesus is saying, I'm going to be on one side and you on the other. My yoke is easy. So he's talking about helping to carry the burden, so one doesn't have to carry that burden themselves. He says again, come to me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. My yoke, take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest in your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. And I think the message there comes across very clearly. Jesus is telling us to come to him when you have trouble. We've been going through this pandemic. This is the first time I had a tie on in probably 17 months. Okay, because all I wear is jockey pants and shirts now. And I've been offered to preach 2 or 3 other times, Frank. And because of the pandemic, I did not go. Okay? Now I found out I only got 1 pair of pants, Joe, that fit me now. And I don't know how these pants shrunk hanging in a closet. These are the only ones that fit me that were appropriate to wear. So the pandemic has affected us a lot. And I think that it's affected the church as well. A lot of us have gotten very comfortable with sitting in the living room and watching it on TV. And we have got to encourage people to come back out and come back and fellowship with one another. Because that's what, if you will, church is all about, being able to fellowship. There are people here that I haven't seen in a while, and there's some people that I've missed seeing. Of course, I called some of you didn't call me back, but that was all right. I knew you were doing okay. Dale did, okay? And also wish Tom, I had breakfast with Tom last week. I mean, he's leaving now. I think he closes on his house Tuesday or Wednesday. And he's getting ready to go on a little journey now. So keep him in your prayers. And of course, you know that he has several things on health watch, as well as Kathy. Lastly, we want to look one more time, and I'm going to let you guys go, at the rich man and Lazarus. Here's a guy who had the same opportunity that Lazarus, that the woman at the well had, and the same thing that Nicodemus had. But he didn't take advantage of it. And as we talked about in class this morning, he ended up in Hades, or Tartarus, or however you want to say it. And he couldn't do anything. If you look over there, he had conscience of mind. He knew what was going on. He was trying to get him to send somebody back to his brothers so that he couldn't come back to this place. So if you know someone who is not a Christian, put them in a situation so that they can make a transition. Maybe you're in the audience today and you need to make a transition as these 2 individuals did. Maybe you know someone that needs to make a transition. If you're subject to the invitation in any way, please come by together. We sing the song that Jack has selected.